In the previous video, Mr. Cho discovered that his listener betrayed him, after seeing him in front of the building where Se-ri lives, talking to his wife and Captain Ri. I'm Nina and today's recap will be Crash Landing on You. When they go up to the apartment again, they celebrate the protagonist's birthday and it is certainly a memory that will be forever marked in her memory. Later, Ri Jong appears in Se-ri's room to give her a gift, however the man makes it clear that she doesn't need it for significance in what she is about to get, and as soon as she delivers it, the woman discovers that it is a pair of alliances. Se-ri promises the captain that she will never take the ring off his finger, it will be a way to always keep him in her memories. Meanwhile, in the north, Seo-dan's mother goes to the apartment to see if her daughter is there, as she hasn't heard from her daughter since last night. On the way, she ends up giving some small gifts to two women from the village, so that they wouldn't talk to anyone else about seeing a man entering Seo-dan's building. Myung-eun also adds that this man is her nephew who arrived from Europe and wanted to stay in a less crowded place. However, the two women don't really believe this story. As soon as she arrives at the apartment, Myung-eun comes across Sung-joon, who treats her like a lady. The boy apologizes for Seo-dan not giving news to his mother and takes her to the room where the woman is sleeping. Seo-dan is woken up by her mother being insulted, and then the two are called to join the table with Sung-joon, who has prepared dinner. While they eat, Myung-eun asks the boy several questions about his life and the intentions he has towards Seo-dan. Sung-joon answers all the questions that the woman raised very clearly and impressed her at the end of the night, when saying that her daughter took after her mother in terms of elegance. However, when the two return to Myung-eun's house, Seo-dan makes it clear that he wants to continue his engagement with Ri Jong. Returning to the south, the protagonist gave her black card, which there is no limit to, for her friends in the north to use with whatever they want. It is her way of thanking them for everything they have done and continue to do to protect her. So the boys have fun shopping and eating whatever they can get their hands on. In the next scene we see the protagonist's sister-in-law, wanting to strike Se-ri once again and take the presidency of her company for herself. Sang-ah calls a meeting with the board of the protagonist's company, and when she is making a proposal for them to remove Se-ri from the presidency, the protagonist's mother enters the room and prevents her daughter-in-law from following through. Jong-yun takes the opportunity to inform Sang-ah that she and her husband know about what her son and daughter-in-law did to try to keep Se-ri in the north, and that the two will wait for their visit at home to talk about it. While at the protagonist's work, she decides that she can take a day off to create more memories with her loved one, and when they are on a bridge observing the view, the man ends up talking about having discovered that they had already met. He even comments on what Se-ri said that day, that he deserved someone better than Seo-dan. The protagonist is surprised, just as the captain was when he found out, and begins to wonder how many more times they have met. Regardless of the number, in the end destiny brought them together. At night, they meet the boys at an establishment and everyone has fun watching the Korea and Japan game. And when Man-bok goes outside the restaurant for a while, he ends up finding someone unexpected waiting for him. It's the Mr. Cho. The man says that he listens to him and will have to help him take Se-ri to the north and follow his orders if he wants his son to stay alive. And once again, Man-bok is faced with a dilemma involving people he likes very. In the next scene, we see the soldiers getting ready for bed, and while talking to one of them, Ri Jong discovers who his archenemy was in that online game. It was his youngest soldier on the team, and how the man acted in a childish way fighting with children in a game. He did not reveal himself to be the tomato grower to the boy. The captain decides to leave the room to get a glass of water and ends up bumping into Man-bok, crying. In the next scene, we see the village wives talking to young Ae. The women still didn't know that the senior colonel was arrested and being investigated for getting involved in Mr. Cho's mess, so when one of the women brings this news to the table, everyone is shocked. But the village leader thinks of something. Seo-dan's mother mentioned her nephew from Europe who is staying in the apartment nearby. Maybe they can talk to him so that the boy can ask Ri Jong's father to help free him, the senior colonel. So they all go to the apartment. Seo-dan arrives at the place and lets the women enter with her, but none of them were expecting to find Sung-joon in a towel coming out of the shower. The man went to get dressed in the room, and since they are in direct contact with Seodan, young Ae tells him about what is happening and asks the woman to help her with anything she can, suddenly talking to her future father-in-law. We already know that Seodan is very cold, and as expected, she is not very moved by the story, but Sung-joon appears and promises that he will try to do something about it. Another woman who was there comments that she thinks she has seen him somewhere and then adds that it was when he went to Ri-jong's house. Later, when it's just Seodan and the boy, the woman asks him what Sung-joon went to do at Captain Ri's house and told him that they had agreed that there would be no lies between them. Then the boy reveals to Seodan that Ri-jong is not on the front line as she and the others think. The man tells Seodan the whole truth and says that he went to his house to help him with some tasks that the captain had requested. The woman cannot contain her tears upon hearing the truth and discovering that she was once again being deceived, then she leaves. Meanwhile, Myung-eun receives news from Seodan's uncle that Sung-joon is a scammer, but that she doesn't need to worry, as her own daughter knows about everything. Of course the woman's mother is nervous anyway, no one wants to see her diamond falling in love with a liar. And the protagonist proves to be a woman of her word. She had promised one of the soldiers who is passionate about South Korean soap operas, dramas, that she would take him to dinner with his favorite actress. And the boy is ecstatic with this gift. However, as Se-ri had given her card for them to use and almost nothing was spent, she decided to give each of them a small gift. The woman also owns a fashion line and had custom-made clothes made for her friends in the north. In the next scene we see Mr. Cho listening to a recording that Man-bok sent him. It seems that the soldiers will return to North Korea and Ri-jong will stay to meet with manager Oh. Next we see Se's father, Ri, who is furious breaking some things while talking to Se-hyung about the bad things he and his wife did to his sister here and during the time she was in the north. The head of the family is determined that he will demote his son's position in the company, but is interrupted when Sang-ah enters the room. The woman kneels down and apologizes for the things she and her husband did. However, thinking about controlling the situation, her daughter-in-law confuses the man and says that Se-ri was in the north by choice. She shows photos of Sung-joon and the protagonist as proof, adding that the two stole money from the family and broke off the engagement just to avoid arousing suspicion. So the father says he will investigate, but if it turns out to be another lie on the part of the couple, let it be made clear to both of them that they will be disinherited and lose everything they have. Later, Se-hyung calls the protagonist to trap her. Mr. Cho is also involved in this and the man says he doesn't care if his sister ends up losing her life in the process. As soon as Se-ri leaves the house, Man-bok warns Mr. Cho about. And on the way to her parents' house, the protagonist is forced to stop her car when she is surrounded by other vehicles. Meanwhile, Ri-jong was called to meet with manager Oh. He is also involved in a trap and when he enters an isolated place, he finds several men waiting. The captain manages to hold out for a long time fighting these men, but there are really many of them and after a while, Ri-jong starts to get beaten up. However, it turns out that our main group was prepared to face Mr. Cho's people. Man-bok told everything to Ri-jong that day when he was caught crying in the kitchen and so the captain managed to organize a way for Se-ri to be protected. We then see that men got out of the vehicles that were surrounding her and started running towards her car. And that's when the surprises begin to appear. The soldiers get out of the protagonist's vehicle and deal with the enemy. Afterwards, Se-ri takes them to the place where Ri-jong is so that the men can help him. She also summoned those boys from that building that she had made a proposal to and as they accepted to help, the woman exempted them from paying rent for 2 years. Mr. Cho was unhappy to see that his listener had betrayed him and the fight between the men began when he shot Man-bok. Unfortunately, because there are a lot of men, Mr. Cho manages to take Man-bok out without Ri-jong noticing. Mr. Cho gives Man-bok several kicks and punches, who is no longer feeling very well because of the shot he received. From afar, Se-ri watches them, but she can't do anything to help her friend. The enemy is armed and she is empty hands. But upon seeing that Mr. Cho hid when he saw Ri-jong and put him in his sights, the protagonist just accelerated her car to prevent her lover from losing his life and, in the end, she was hit. The captain fired shots at Mr. Cho, who, despite being hit several times, managed to crawl behind a vehicle, but Man Bok was waiting for him with a gun pointed at the man. However, before he fired the shot, Mr. Cho had already fled, as Man Bok closed his eyes to gain the courage to shoot. And the men of the north despaired when they saw Se-ri unconscious. None of them could contain her tears, and soon they took her to the hospital. The protagonist's surgery was a success, but after 3 days of being unconscious, investigations into what happened began. So Se-ri's right-hand man has to take Ri-jong to give his testimony as a witness, and on the way, the man ends up bumping into the protagonist's sisters-in-law. Sang-ah asks Chung-sik to send Ri-jong's resume to her, as the woman was told that he is a bodyguard, but the man responds that he can't do that without his boss's permission. And of course, the protagonist's lovely sister-in-law didn't like it. In the next scene, we see that Mr. Cho survived his injuries, but he is also in bad shape. Returning to Sang-ah, the woman decides that they should fire Ri-jong, and unfortunately, Se-ri's right-hand man is forced to do so, so now the captain can't be close to his loved one or hear about her status. Back in the north, young Ae receives a good surprise. After so many bad days, her husband has been released and can return home. So the village women prepare a meal for Seo-dan's mother, as a thank you for the family helping them. After a few sips of champagne, the village leader ends up letting some things slip, and Myung-eun finds out about Se-ri and Captain Ri's affair. The woman ends up drinking everything she had out of anger at what the man did to her daughter, and when she gets home, she tells Seo-dan that she just wants the woman to be happy, even if to do that she has to dismantle the engagement. Returning to the protagonist, as soon as she wakes up, she asks her family to leave the room and calls Ri-jong to come back. When the man sees his beloved, he starts to cry. He hugs her and says that he was afraid of not being able to tell her, if the protagonist's condition worsened, that he loves her. Then the boys from the north enter the room, and Ri-jong is surprised to see them there, since the man didn't warn them. It turns out that Man Bok is behind this. He placed a bug in the protagonist's room as soon as she was placed there, and so he was careful to make sure someone wouldn't try to do something to the woman. The boys found out about Se-ri's brothers not being very good to her, and the eavesdropper gives the woman a recording to listen to when she's alone. Meanwhile, Sung-joon asks Seo-dan to meet him. The man is worried about her, since the last time they spoke, the woman left crying. So to make Seo-dan feel a little better, Sung-joon suggests that she punch him, and the woman doesn't miss the opportunity. Despite having just been beaten, the man tells Seo-dan that she looks attractive even doing this, and the woman keeps urging him to give her more compliments, which results in the two kissing. Returning to Se-ri, she listened to the recording that Man Bok gave her, and it was her mother in it. The woman was crying, asking the protagonist to wake up. Jong-yeon also apologized for all the times she blamed her daughter for the situation, unhappiness that she caused herself, and now she is ready to love her as the protagonist always loved her. Hearing those words made Se-ri shed several tears. In the next scene, we see that NIS is investigating Se-ri's case, and they already know that there are at least 2 North Koreans in the country. After picking up a pin in the cave, they used to cross into the country, and cameras recorded their presence. The protagonist also faces a problem related to a camera. A paparazzi photographs Captain Ri helping her get out of bed, and when the photo appears on social media, it becomes the subject of news stories. Later, Ri-jong became unhappy once again with one of Se-ri's relatives. Se-hyung wants to enter his sister's room at all costs, but under the protagonist's orders, the man cannot allow it. So the woman's brother orders his security guards to force Ri-jong out of the place. He just didn't expect the skills that the captain would show next, and in the end, the three end up unable to move. Se-hyung ends up giving up on entering the room, and the protagonist's employees begin to admire Captain Ri more and more. Meanwhile, Mr. Cho sent photos and more evidence to the military director, so that he can use it against the director of the Politburo. And Ri-jong ends up going for coffee with Se-ri's mother. The woman tells him that she supports the two of them being together and hands over her card with her contact information, so that Ri-jong can call her if anything happens or if she needs anything. The man asks why she doesn't stay by her daughter's side, since the lady commented that the protagonist has always been very alone, and as it leaves her speechless, Ri Zhang adds that she thinks this could bring the two closer together. In the next scene we see the military director taking the photos he received to the captain's father, and the man just responds that his son is on a secret mission in the country, so not everyone knows about the information about him being there. So before leaving, since he didn't believe the Politburo director's word, the military director says that if it's a lie, his career and family will be over. Returning to the protagonist, she gathered her family in her room and decided to make a recording for everyone to hear, which will help in the investigation of the shooting in which she ended up injured. In the audio there is evidence that Se-hyung and his wife were involved in Se-ri's accident, so the head of the family says that his son will resign his position in the company immediately and will no longer be part of the family. Then the protagonist's mother gets up and does what we've all wanted to do for a long time. She slaps Se-hyung in the face. In the north, Sung-joon ends up cornered on the roof of the building where Seo-dan's apartment is staying. Some men are there to catch him, and with several weapons pointed at him, the man can't do anything but be surrendering. And Man-bok's wife is not safe either. 2 men appeared in the village to take her and her son. However, the women who are her friends do not allow this to happen, as their behavior seems to be very suspicious. Returning to the south, someone gives Sang-ah the clue that Ri Zhang and the other boys with Se-ri are from the north, so the woman passes this information on to the man who is investigating the case. And Ri Zhang tells his team that he will go on a date, but perhaps the man will end up not returning, so he asks them to take care of the protagonist and, if a long time passes without hearing from him, to return to the north. The investigator followed the captain to where Mr. Cho was hiding and used helicopters, several agents, and other resources to ask them to drop their weapons and surrender. Then, Mr. Cho ends up reacting when he sees that Ri Zhang lowered his weapon and ended up losing his life. In his final moments, the man tells Captain Ri that there is no point now. He sends the evidence to the military director. He and his team are in trouble, and when they return to the north, they will be arrested. And Ri Zhang's father and mother will lose their heads for the crimes their son committed. And the captain is taken away in handcuffs. In the next scene, we see that the man left one more thing for his beloved to remember him by a recording of him playing the song she made for her brother, so she can listen to it when she has trouble sleeping. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you liked the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me. Until next time.